One of the things, Kitty, you told me is that you also lived under socialized medicine. Tell us what happened there.
Well, we enjoyed in Austria good health care. We had good hospitals. We had good doctors. That all changed. That health care was being socialized. Everything was free, and people would rush to the doctor. And I talked to my brother-in-law, who was a family physician, and he said when he arrived at his office at 8 o'clock in the morning, there were 40 people lined up out into the street waiting for health care. They brought the whole families and everybody, and it was like practicing medicine on a conveyor belt. And what was even worse, all the doctors were being salaried. And he told me that he was naturally a very conscientious doctor, and he would prescribe medication for his patients as he should, for the best care. But if that medication was not on the government's list, they took the money out of his paycheck, and his paycheck dwindled down to nothing.
Hold on a second. That sounds a little like H.R. 3200, that if you assign a treatment or prescribe a medication that's not on the, quote, government protocol list, well, then there's penalties for you, and those are financial as well. As we look to the similarities, Kitty Worthman, our guest, there are many. And by the way, you might have been inclined to speak out, but there were some things in place that would prohibit you from talking to neighbors or friends or even the mailman, right, Kitty?
We were scared to death of the Gestapo. That was the federal police force. They were all in civilian clothes, and you never know who they were. You couldn't trust anybody because people were informants. It was like this. If somebody died in your family, of course, all our food was being rationed, and you got 1 pound of sugar a month. And if your grandmother died, you quickly used her coupon for sugar and went to the grocery store and bought the sugar. The next day, the Gestapo would knock on your door and would say, "We know you did not turn in the coupon for sugar, which is law, and we are not going to arrest you, but you have to inform on your neighbor, on your employer, on your friends, everybody, and you have to come once a week to our office and report. And if you don't do that, then we will arrest you." This was the idea, the enforcement of informers. It was a network of informers. We couldn't trust the mailman. We couldn't trust the plumber. We couldn't trust anybody who would come to our house. And I remember when my parents talked something political, they only whispered, because we did not know who would be listening at the door.
They were afraid of a snitch program that would turn in any, I don't know, fishy speech. Does that sound familiar to what's happening now to you?
Very much so. Very much so. We were scared to death of the Gestapo because people disappeared all the time.
And so what's the similarity?
Well, I heard about that snitch program to report on your neighbor. I thought, good heavens, are they doing that here? Where is our freedom? I've been talking about socialism for 30 years, and people sort of ignored that, and they said, what is she talking about? This would never happen here in this country. We have a democracy and a republic. This couldn't happen here. Well, look, when I saw in the Newsweek magazine, I think in February, we are all socialists now. The word socialist was almost never heard of, but all of a sudden it has been creeping up. Yes, it's here. It's not only socialism, but what I see with the SARS, what are working for our president as advisors, that borders on Marxism. And I lived under both systems. I lived under Hitler's regime, and I lived under Soviet communism occupation. So I know both sides. One is as bad as the other.
Both are liberal. Both are to the left.
Extreme.
When they try to make one to the right. No. They're both leftist ideas. By the way, you mentioned the banks, the cars, the government takeover, and the move toward energy, healthcare, the radio. Well, they had Joseph Goebbels. We have Mark Lloyd, the diversity czar, who wants to shut down private radio stations. His hero is who? Hugo Chavez, who did that very thing. He's threatening licenses and fines on stations if he doesn't like something that's said. As you just said, there was no way to get the information out, and well, he's looking at a bailout plan right now. President Obama said he's open to a bailout of the newspaper industry. We've said tongue-in-cheek, a state-run media. This would be an absolute state-run media where the government takes over that arm of the press, that free press that we used to enjoy as Americans. We've got to stand up. By the way, it took, you said, 5 years for this dictatorship to take place. Are you amazed by how quickly things are moving in this direction in America?
Yes, this is going very fast, very fast. Look, the demonstration last Saturday in Washington, I was in Washington Wednesday and Thursday, and I talked to some of the policemen and asked them how many people were there, and I found out it was over 1 million. And nobody reported that in the media. What is happening? Well, Hitler also wrote the book, My Struggle, Mein Kampf. But the fact was that hardly anybody in Austria was reading it because everybody was so busy with sports. Because in that book, Mein Kampf, it is outlined exactly what Hitler was going to do. But the people forgot all about it because they were so busy in athletics. Sports was the big idea of everything.
So they were distracted. Where was the church? What was the church doing, Kitty?
Well, after he nationalized the churches, they couldn't speak out because they would lose their funding. Mm-hmm. And
their lives, their freedom as well.
Their freedom. Mm-hmm. Yes.
What would you say to people who are right now facing this? What advice do you have for America, having been through what you have?
Wake up, America. Everybody needs to listen to Fox News and to whatever conservative publication, because you will not find it in the news media. They're not printing anything. And wake up and inform your neighbors
before they shut that media down.